Hi everyone, welcome to the video. Today we are going to solve SAT question bank reading and writing tests. The domain is informational ideas. The skills that are tested here are central ideas and details. The difficulty level is easy. Okay, let's start. This part usually isn't really important, so I'm just going to draw a line. Okay, let's start. Eleanor lives with her younger sister and her mother, Mrs. Dashwood. It's quite important actually, so I'm going to highlight it. Eleanor, this eldest daughter, whose advice was so effectual, possessed the strength of understanding and coolness of judgment which qualified her, though only 19, to be the counselor of her mother, and enabled her frequently to counteract to the advantage of them all. That eagerness of mind in Mrs. Dashwood, which must be generally have led to imprudence. She had an excellent heart. Her disposition was affectionate and her feelings were strong, but she knew how to govern them. It was a knowledge which her mother had yet to learn, and which one of her sisters has resolved never to be taught. Okay, the question asks, according to the text, what's true about Eleanor? Eleanor often argues with her mother but fails to change her mind. It doesn't really mention the fact that Eleanor argues with her mother, so it's wrong. Eleanor can be overly sensitive with regard to family matters. It doesn't tell that Eleanor is overly sensitive. In the opposite, she is quite mature. Eleanor thinks her mother is a bad role model. She doesn't really think so, at least the text doesn't mention that. Eleanor is remarkably mature for her age, it's true, because she's a counselor of her mother. Okay, next. When fashion designer Lloyd Henry Kiwanuo opened his store in Scottsdale, Arizona in 1945, he quickly became known for creating delicately crafted leather goods, like belts and hats. He was perhaps most renowned for his colorful handbags, which he made by hand, using a long and painstaking process. As he gained more customers, New began using sewing machines and other tools to help him produce bags more efficiently, though he continued to handcraft crucial details that made each bag unique. Based on the text, what would have been the most likely consequence if New hadn't begun using sewing machines? Okay, the text tells us that he started using sewing machines in order to produce more bags. He would have been unable to ensure that each bag included unique handicraft. It's false. He would have struggled to meet the increasing demand for his bags. It's true, because he wanted to produce more efficiently, which means increase the product, the number of produced products. So the answer is B. Let's look to answers C and D too. He would have had to individually design each bag he produced. Yes, actually it's true, but it's not the main reason why he started to use sewing machines. He wouldn't have been able to generate as much interest in his bags. Actually, he generated the interest before by using his handicraft. So the answer is B here, because it shows the most probable reason. Third question. The following text is adapted from. It's again not really important, so there is no reason to read this part. I 8-year-old Heidi and her friend's grandmother are looking at some illustrated books. Heidi had come and was looking with wondering eyes at the splendid pictures in the large books that Grandmama was showing her. Suddenly she screamed aloud, for there on the picture she saw a peaceful flock grazing on a green pasture. In the middle of a shepherd was standing, leaning on the crook. The setting sun was shedding a golden light over everything. With glowing eyes, Heidi devoured the scene. Which choice bestates the main idea of the text? Heidi is upset. Not really, actually. She was fascinated by the picture. It tells us she was devoured. So we should actually eliminate those negative answers now. Heidi is delighted and fascinated by an image she sees in one of the grandmama's books. B is correct. Heidi is initially frightened. She is not really frightened. Heidi is inspecting an image in one of the grandmama's books because she has never seen a shepherd. Not really. At least the other text doesn't mention, so the answer is B. Next, according to the text, what's one reason some archaeologists are interested in recovering sand from ancient artifacts? And let's look at the beginning and at the end of the text, because usually in scientific texts there is no need to read the middle part. It's usually an explanation, and we don't really need that. Let's start read the beginning and the end, and if we won't have answers, then we will look in the middle. Sand is tightly interwoven with our daily lives, often evoking significant memories and important social events. This connection is of growing interest to archaeologists who hope to use it to better understand ancient rituals, trades, social hierarchies, and medicine. Actually, the answer is here the reason why archaeologists are interested in recovering sands. Let's look at the answer choices. They are investigating whether people's sense of smell has declined. Not really. They believe the sense could illuminate important aspects of ancient life. I think it's correct. Let's look at C and D and decide. They think that ancient sense would be enjoyable to people today. It doesn't mention that. They hope to develop new medicine. It doesn't talk about medicine. So the answer is indeed B. The following text is adapted from its... Okay. Mother didn't spend all her time in paying dull visits. Just Mother didn't spend all her time in paying dull visits to dull ladies and sitting dully at home waiting for dull ladies to pay visits to her. She was almost always there, ready to play with the children and read to them and help them to do their home lessons. Besides this, she used to write stories for them while they were at school and read them aloud after tea, and she always made up funny pieces of poetry for their birthdays and for other great occasions. According to the text, what's true about Mother? She wishes that more ladies would visit her. Not really. She thinks they are dull. Birthdays are her favorite special occasion. It doesn't really say that. It's not her favorite. At least it doesn't mention. She doesn't wish, so it's also wrong. She creates stories and poems for her children. Probably it's the answer. Reading to her children is her favorite activity. It doesn't really mention that it's her favorite activity. She just does that. Probably she likes it, but it's not her favorite activity. Next, the narrator is a member of her middle school's jazz band. One day, the jazz band was invited to perform at the summer festival in Palm Springs. Walking across the stage to the piano, I did what my teacher had advised. Pretend you are only playing for one person. That way you won't be nervous. I glanced at my father, who sat in the front row, leaning his head just waiting. Then I closed my eyes and began to play. According to the text, what does the narrator do as she walks across the stage? She thinks about the differences between playing the piano alone and playing in a band. No, doesn't talk about the differences. She feels excitement about playing in a music festival for the first time. She did. She really feels excitement, probably, but it's not what she does, it's just how she feels during that time. She remembers how hard she has practiced. She doesn't really remember that. She follows her teacher's advice about managing her nervousness. It's probably the answer. She pretends that she is only playing for one person, so she doesn't feel nervous. And Dorian Gray is taking his first look at the portrait. It's highlighted. A portrait that Hallward has painted of him. Dorian passed listlessly in front of his picture and turned towards it. When he saw it, he drew back, and his cheeks flushed for a moment with pleasure. A look of joy came into his eyes, as if he had recognized himself for the first time. He stood there motionless and in wonder, dimly conscious that Hallward was speaking to him, but not catching the meaning of his words. The sense of his own beauty came on him like a revelation. He had never felt it before. So he felt pleasure and he was happy. He saw the sense of his own beauty, so he liked it. According to what's true about Dorian, he wants to know Hallward's opinion of the portrait. Not really. It doesn't. Does it? He wants to know anyone's opinion. He just felt pleasure looking at the portrait. He is delighted by what he sees in the portrait. It's probably true. He prefers portraits to other types of paintings. He doesn't really talk about other types of paintings. He is uncertain of Hallward's talent as an artist. Not really. He didn't question Hallward's talent as an artist. So the correct answer is B. He felt pleasure. Beauty came on him like a revelation. So it's delighted. In 2014, let's look at the description. Why would a helicopter built for Earth to be unable to fly on Mars? In 2014, Amelia Cohn and her team at NASA set out to build a helicopter capable of flying on Mars. Because Mars's atmosphere is only 1% as dense as Earth's, the air of Mars wouldn't provide enough resistance to the rotating blades of a standard helicopter for the aircraft to stay aloft. So it actually tells already the reason. Because Mars and Earth have different atmospheric conditions. It's probably the answer, but let's look to other choices too to eliminate them. Because the blades of helicopters built for Earth are too large, not really. Because the gravity of Mars is much weaker, it doesn't talk about gravity, it talks about the atmospheric conditions, atmosphere. Because helicopters built for Earth are too small to handle the conditions on Mars. No. The answer is A. Let's look at this question. The narrator is traveling by car with her family to Mexico City. Maria and Laura are her brother and sister. The question asks, what did the narrator and Mario do while riding in the car? Mario and I played games to see how many different license plates we could spot. So, he played a game. The answer should be D. They played games, they didn't read books, so they didn't sing songs and didn't sleep. It clearly says they played games. So, let's move on to the next question. The narrator has just arrived at summer camp, which is far away from his home. The question asks, how does the narrator feel about being at summer camp? This place was different than I thought it would be. I've never been somewhere like this before. I did feel scared, but also excited. So he isn't overjoyed. He's not peaceful. He's both scared and excited. And the same words actually here. Scared and excited. He feels both angry and jealous, not really. So the answer here is C. Next question. Bicycles were first mass-produced in the late 19th century throughout Europe and North America, allowing individuals remarkable freedom to travel longer distances quickly and comfortably. This freedom, coupled with the affordability of the vehicle, made the bicycle immensely popular. Individuals were able to live farther from their workplaces, easily visit neighboring towns, and participate in new leisure and sport activities. Bicycling quickly became a popular social endeavor, with enthusiasts forming local cycling clubs to enjoy these newfound activities with others. Which choice best states the main idea of the text? The widespread adoption of the bicycle in the late 19th century provided new opportunities for people. I think it's true, but let's look to other options too. The affordability of the bicycle in the late 19th century made it preferred way to travel. The popularity of the bicycle in the late 19th century gave rise to the first cycling clubs. It doesn't really say that's the first cycling clubs. First general cycling club, and the mass production of the bicycle in the late 19th century made it safer for people to use. It doesn't talk about safety, so it's either A or B. for the bicycle in the late 19th century provided new opportunities for people? I think it's A. And the B isn't true, probably because it mainly talks about the opportunities that bicycle gives them. Bicycle gives them freedom, affordability, also made bicycles popular. Individuals were able to live farther from their workplaces. They could easily visit towns, participate in leisure activities and sport activities. So it's probably A. The following text is adapted from M. Petrie's 1946 novel, The Street. It's actually unnecessary. There's no reason to read that part. Now, Lottie lives in an apartment in Harlem, New York. The question asks which choice best describes what's happening in the text. The glow from the sunset was making the street radiant. The street is nice in this light. It was swarming with children who were playing ball and darting back and forth across the sidewalk in complicated games of tag. Girls were skipping double-touch rope, going tirelessly through the exact center of a pair of ropes, jumping first on the one foot and then on the other. Now let's look at the options. Lottie is observing the appearance of the street at a particular time of the day and the events occurring. The answer is probably this one, but let's eliminate other choices. Lottie isn't annoyed or puzzled. Lottie is spending time alone in her apartment. It doesn't say that she's alone there, and it doesn't say that she doesn't want to interact with her neighbors. She's just looking at them, so the answer is A. Now let's move to the next question. According to the text, which piece of Favelas art was on display? On display in the Patterson Automotive Museum in 2017. In 2017, let's read from here, Favela created an impressive life-size piñata-like sculpture of the Gypsy Rose Low Rider car, which was displayed at the Patterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, California. So the answer is Lowrider car. It's B. It's not a painting of Los Angeles. The Lowrider car was in Los Angeles. The Patterson Museum is there. A painting, it's piñata of a lowrider car, not a painting of a piñata. A sculpture of Jesse Vallada's, not really. The Gypsy Rose lowrider was famous. It was just driven by Jesse Vallada's, but it isn't a sculpture of him. So the answer here is B. Let's move on to the next question. Sim Wang and his colleagues have discovered the earliest known example of a flower bud in a 164 million year old plant fossil in China. The question asks how old was the fossil that Wang and colleagues discovered? So the answer is 164 million years. It's just written here. Let's highlight it. Okay, the other choices are 150 million. It doesn't really mention this number. It just says that during that period, they believe that the discovery pushes the emergence of flowering plants back to the Jurassic period, which occurred from 145 million and 201 million years ago. It's just Jurassic period, so it's wrong. 145 million Jurassic period, 201 million years old, also Jurassic, so the answer is 164 million year old. Each choice best states the main idea of the text. In 1935, Hallie Flanagan was chosen to lead the Federal Theater Project. This project was part of the New Works Progress Administration, a program created by President Franklin D. Roosevelt to provide jobs for unemployed people. During the Great Depression, as a director of the FTP, Flanagan created jobs for over 12,500 performers, designers, and other theater professionals. She also kept ticket prices low for shows this date, which meant that many people could afford to experience it for the first time. So, the main idea of the text is what? Jobs provided by the FTP were intended mainly for performance designers and other theater professionals. I mean, the prices of tickets were low, so they wanted for people to experience theater too, so it's wrong. President Roosevelt created the WPA to provide jobs for unemployed people. It was one of his aims, but there is another goal here too, so the answer is probably isn't this one. During the Great Depression, many people couldn't afford to buy theater tickets. It didn't really say that. So it's wrong. As a director of the FTP, Flanagan succeeded in creating many jobs and introducing people to theater. The answer is probably this one. D. And according to the text, what challenge did the researchers have to overcome to examine the glyphs? In 2022, researchers discovered ancient indigenous glyphs or drawings on the walls of a cave in Alabama. The cave's ceilings was only a few feet high, affording no position from which the glyphs, being as wide as 10 feet, could be viewed or photographed in its entirety. So it didn't let the researchers to take photo or view the cave completely, and the question asks, what challenge did the researchers have to overcome to examine the glyphs? Now actually we can answer the question. The cave was so remote, it's not really remote, it tells that its position didn't allow them to view it completely or to take any photographs entirely. Some of the glyphs were so faint, not really. Researchers were unable to create a 3D model. No, they actually did create, I think. However, the researchers used a technique called photogrammetry to assemble numerous photos, and yeah, they actually made a 3D model, so it's wrong. The cave's dimensions prevented researchers from fully reviewing the glyphs. D is the answer. Let's look at the question first. According to the text, what's one of the ways that Vargas differed from other ranchera singers? Okay, in 1960s, Chavela Vargas became an unlikely star in ranchera, a style of traditional Mexican music. Most ranchera singers had clear, polished voices and performed with a full band, but Vargas accompanied her raspy voice with just her guitar. Dressed in men's trousers and a poncho, she would perform classic songs that had been written from a male point of view and were usually sung by men. She also altered those songs by performing them much more slowly than other ranchera singers did. The slower tempo allowed her to express the emotional quality of the lyrics more fully. It tells that her voice was actually raspy, so it's not polished or clear, definitely wrong. She avoided singing songs written from a male point of view. Actually, she did sing songs written from a male point of view. She disliked performing classic songs. It doesn't talk about classic songs at all, so the answer is this. She altered classic songs by slowing them down. She also altered those songs by performing them much more slowly. It doesn't say she disliked it, so we should omit it. Okay, the answer is D. Next, move on to the next question. The 7-year-old narrator lives with his family in Sri Lanka. Radha Auntie is the narrator's aunt. According to the text, why does the narrator consult some family photographs? Radha Auntie, who was the youngest in my father's family, had left for America 4 years ago when I was 3, and I couldn't remember what she looked like. Okay, he didn't remember what she looked like. So I went into the corridor to look at the family photographs that were hung there, but all the pictures were old ones, taken when Radha Auntie was a baby or a young girl. Try as might, I couldn't get an idea of what she looked like now. Okay, he wanted to know what she looked like now, so he wanted to look at the pictures. That's the reason. Let's see where it tells that. He wants to use the photographs as an inspiration for a story he's writing. It doesn't really tell that he's writing a story. He is curious about how his father dressed. And father isn't the main thing here, it's Radha auntie. He hopes that the photographs will help him recall what his aunt looked like. It's probably see. He wants to remind his aunt of an event. No, he isn't trying to remind it. The text that doesn't mention that. The answer is C. According to the text, writers Vavero thinks that Mancala was played at the site for a long time. Archaeologist Veronica Vavero visited the Leva Wildlife Conservancy in Kenya. While exploring there, Vavero noticed many rows of shallow pits carved into stones. Vavero believed the pits could have been used as game boards to play ancient versions of Mancala. Two-person strategy game. This is still popular today. Some of the more recent pits were carved on top of the older pits. This led Vavero to think that the game was played at the site for a long time. Mancala was played at the site for a long time. Why did you think so? Because some of the more recent pits were carved on top of older pits. Let's see which one tells it. Some of the newer pits were carved. It's A actually, in the first one. Some of the newer pits were carved on top of the other pits. They didn't really change any word here. It's the same as here in the text. She noticed many rows of shallow pits carved into stones. I don't think it's a real reason. She discarded the pits at the Leva Wildlife Conservancy. No, it's not the reason. Some of the pits were shallow and others were quite deep. No. The answer is A. They didn't change the word, so it was quite easy. Let's see, which choice best states the main idea of the text? NASA's Cassini probe has detected an unusual wobble in the rotation of Mimas, Saturn's smallest moon. Using a computer model to study Mimas' gravitational interactions with Saturn and tidal forces, geophysicist Alicia Rodin and colleagues have proposed that this wobble could be due to a liquid ocean moving beneath the moon's icy surface. The researchers believe other moons should be examined to see if they too might have oceans hidden beneath their surfaces. The main idea of the text we need to find. Rodin and colleagues were the first to confirm that several of Saturn's moons contain hidden oceans. It doesn't really say that they were the first ones. That's why it's not correct. Researchers failed to identify signs that there is an ocean hidden beneath. It didn't fail, they just thought that it can be an ocean moving beneath, so they want to examine other moons too. Let's highlight important parts. I forgot to highlight those. The researchers believe other moons should be examined to see if they have ocean beneath their surface too. Rodin and colleagues created a new computer model that identifies moons with hidden oceans without needing to analyze the moon's rotation. No, not really. Researchers have revealed an oddity in the rotation of Mimas could be explained by an ocean hidden beneath its surface. It's probably the main idea. The answer is D. The following text is adapted from, actually it's not really important, as I said before, let's skip it. In the exam, we won't really have time to read those things. Mary, a young girl, recently found an overgrown hidden garden. Mary was an odd, determined little person, and now she had something interesting to be determined about. She was very much absorbed indeed. Which was basically the main idea of the text. We need to find the main idea. She forked and dug, and pulled up weeds steadily, only became more pleased with her work every hour instead of tiring of it. It seemed her like a fascinating sort of a play. So she doesn't hide there. Mary hides in the garden to avoid doing her chores now. Mary is getting bored with pulling. She's not getting bored. On the contrary, she's pleased with her work and she's getting more fascinated by it. Mary is clearing out garden to create a space to play. No, it doesn't really say the reason why she does it. She just feels pleased and does it. She likes cleaning. Mary feels very satisfied when she is taking care of the garden. The answer is D, definitely. Shimmering is a collective defense behavior. Here we also need to find main idea of the text. Shimmering is a collective defense behavior that researchers have observed in giant honeybee colonies. When shimmering, different groups of bees flip their bodies up and down what looks like waves. This defense is initiated when hornets hover near a colony, serving to deter the hornets from approaching the bees. Researchers hypothesize that this behavior is a specialized defense response to hornets, as it's not observed when other larger predators approach the colony. Researchers are unsure how giant honeybees defend against predators larger than hornets. The main idea isn't this. The main idea here is the fact that honeybees initiate wobbling, shimmering when they see hornets in order to be protected from them. The main idea aren't other larger predators. Researchers think that shimmering in giant honeybees is a specific defense against hornets. It's probably the answer, but let's eliminate other ones too. Hornets are known to be the main predator. No. Several different species of insects use shimmering to defend against hornets. It doesn't really talk about other insects, so the answer is B. According to the text, what's one reason Marjo and others found U-Recycle Initiative in Africa? Let's see. Co-founded U-Recycle Initiative Africa when she was only a teenager. Marjo and her team founded the organization to teach young people how their actions affect the environment. They want to teach young people how their actions affect the environment and why recycling is important. The examples aren't usually important in SAT, but sometimes they may be important, but here it isn't, and 90% of the time they're important. They aren't important. To bring attention to overlooked African artists. It doesn't really talk about African artists. To teach young people why recycling is important. It's probably the answer, but let's eliminate C and D too. To help adults gain important outdoor skill. Adults aren't the main point here, it's young people. To give teenagers advice about starting business. Not really. The answer is B. The answer is B. Here. What feature of Hevea brasiliensis does the text say is helpful for the process of making rubber? A tree in the Amazon rainforest is the world's main source of natural rubber. Let's highlight the important part in the question so it will be easier. What feature of Hevea brasiliensis does the text say is helpful for the process of making rubber? Okay. The tree produces a milky substance called latex that is used to make rubber. The bark of Hevea brasiliensis is helpful for the process of making rubber because it has a unique structure that makes it easy to collect latex. So the answer should be this part. They may use synonyms, but the main idea is this. The text is helpful for the process of making rubber because latex produces rubber of an especially high quality. No. Its bark has a unique structure that makes it easy to collect latex. Yes, it's probably the answer. But let's look at other choices too. It is able to grow in a wide variety of climates. No. It's one of only 2 trees in the Amazon that produces latex. It may be true, but it's not why, as the text says, it is helpful for the process of making rubber, this tree. So the answer is B. According to the text, what did Gloria Richardson lead? Gloria Richardson led a movement to promote racial equality. Her involvement in this effort was inspired by her daughter Donna Richardson. In 1961, Donna joined protests organized by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in Cambridge, Maryland, Following her daughter, Gloria joins these protests too. Gloria soon became the co-chair of the Cambridge Nonviolent Action Committee. She was also a leader of what became known as the Cambridge Movement. So the answer is Cambridge Movement because the text clearly states that she leads the Cambridge Movement. She doesn't lead her daughter Donna's high school. She doesn't lead protests to support environmental protection. And D, a new business in Cambridge, Maryland. No, really. Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was in Cambridge, Maryland, but she doesn't rule this area. So the answer is A. Which choice best states the main idea of the text? Microplastics are pieces of plastic that are smaller than a grain of rice. These small plastics can be found in large quantities in ocean waters. Ecologist Jessica Reichert and her team are studying the role reef-building corals having capturing microplastic from ocean waters. Through research, her team has found that these corals may be... Her team has found that these corals may be storing up to 20 million kilograms of microplastics each year in their skeletons and tissues. Let's look at answers. Which choice best states main idea of the text? Ecologists are interested in learning more about how certain corals build large reefs. It's not about this, it's mostly about microplastics, not corals. So it's wrong. Questions remain around the impact certain corals have on ocean ecosystems. There are no questions. They told that corals contain 20 million kilograms of microplastic, but the question is resolved and it doesn't really talk about other questions. Microplastics are small pieces of plastic that can be found in ocean waters. It's just definition of microplastics. No, it's not the answer. Ecologists predict that corals store large amounts of microplastics from ocean waters. It's exactly the right answer. He tells here too, her team has found that these corals may be storing up to 20 million kilograms of microplastics. It's just a synonym of this part. So the answer is D. Which choice best states the main idea of the text? Psychologists found to test how young children think about rewards and fairness. In an experiment, 2 teachers handed out rewards while children watched. The teachers gave out the same number of rewards, but one of them counted the rewards out loud. The children were then asked, who was fairer? 73% of the teacher who counted. The psychologist thinks that counting showed the children that the teacher wanted to be fair. The children maybe have believed that the teacher who didn't count didn't care about fairness. Let's see. That's the answers. Let's look at them. Psychologists think children cannot understand the concept of fairness until they are 6 years old. No. An experiment found that counting out loud is the best way to teach mathematical concepts. Not really. Psychologists think young children expect to be rewarded when children show that they care about fairness. No. It's completely different. An experiment shows that the way rewards are given out may affect whether young children think the situation is fair or not. Just like here. When the teacher counted, they thought that she is fair, but when she didn't, they thought that she is not. So the way rewards are given is important for children. So let's look at the next question. Scrapbooks of saved fabric pieces were commonly kept by women in the 19th century United States, but few are as meticulously detailed as Hannah Dietzler Alsbach's works. Alongside each piece of fabric, Alsbach recorded intimate memories such as dressmaking with her sister. Additionally, she listed the prices and how she used the fabric. Historians note that by representing 50 years of changing textures, patterns, and dress styles, the scrapbook is a record of 19th century textiles and dressmaking as well as Alsbach's life. Alsbach's inspired other women. She didn't really inspire other women. I mean, it's not the main idea, so there's no need to read the rest of it. Historians rely on fabric scrapbooks to understand how fashions changed throughout the 19th century. It's not the main idea. Fabric scrapbooks were a popular hobby for many women in the 19th century in the United States. It doesn't mention that it was a popular hobby for women during that time. Iceberg's scrapbook provides a detailed account of her life and historical record of fashion trends in the 19th century. It's exactly it, because the text also has those exact sentences. Additionally, she lists the prices and how she used the fabric. Historians note that by representing 50 years of change in textures, pattern, dress styles, scrapbook is a record of 19th century textiles and dressmaking, as well as her life. It clearly states, and the option here is the synonym of the end of the text, actually. So the answer is D. Arthropods, here also we need to find main idea of the text. Arthropods, brine shrimp, hawk, mouse, and many other invertebrate animals. Actually, there is no need to read this part, especially when there are two hyphens. We don't really need to read what's between them, because they are usually just examples and there's no need to spend time on it. It's just a waste of time. Arthropods have a nervous system made up of a brain, nerve cord, and other nerves. Researchers have gained insights about this system in ancient arthropods from traces found in various fossils. For example, we don't really need to read this part too. It's just example. They also saw possible indications of a synganglion, a brain-like mass of nerves. Researchers hope to identify more features of the nervous system of prehistoric arthropods as additional fossils are found. The main idea of the text. There are several similarities between the brains of hawk mouse and brains of brine shrimp. I mean, these are just type of arthropods, so the answer is probably isn't this one, but let's leave it and eliminate other choices. Fossil evidence can contribute to understanding the nervous system in ancient arthropods. Actually, the answer is probably this one, because the main idea here is the fact that arthropods have a nervous system, and this was found thanks to fossils. And the option also states that fossil evidence can contribute to the understanding of the nervous system of arthropods. The answer is this one. Newly discovered fossils suggest that ancient hawk mouse and ancient brine shrimp had spines. I mean, it tells that they have nervous system, cord, and other nerves, and also a brain. So probably it's not this one. Researchers need to focus on finding more fossils. It doesn't really tell that they need to focus on finding more fossils. It just says that fossils help to find more ideas about arthropods. Thanks to them, they got this idea, for example. So the answer is B. Also, the answer isn't A, probably because of the fact that hawk mouse and also brine shrimp are both type of arthropods. That's why there is no need to write them separately and tell that they have similar brains. I mean, they're the same species. So the answer is B. How did the right home most likely feel when the letter was delivered? Let's see how it felt. In an old second-hand bookshop in London, an old man sat reading Gibbon's History of Rome. He didn't put down his book when the postman brought him a letter. He just glanced indifferently at the letter and impatiently at the postman. The royal home didn't like to be interrupted when he was reading Gibbon. And as he was always reading Gibbon, an interruption was always regarded him as an insult. So he didn't really like it. The fact that postman came. He felt relieved. He didn't feel relieved or excited. We don't need positive answers here. We just can eliminate them. He felt sad because the postman didn't stop talking with him before leaving. Really, he doesn't want to talk to him. He felt annoyed because he was interrupted while reading his favorite author. Look, was interrupted is used here. So, thanks to interrupted, we can also find the answer in a shorter time. In the 1700s and 1800s, European composers experimented with volume in their musical works. They did so by increasing the number of musicians playing in the orchestra. For example, in some of his operas, German composer Richard Wagner added more horns, trombones, and tubas to the orchestra. With more instruments playing at the same time, the orchestra could play extremely loudly at key moments in the opera. Let's see. The question asks, how did Richard Wagner achieve moments of extremely high volume? So he used more horns, trombones, and tubas in the orchestra. By increasing the number of musicians playing horns, trombones, and tubas in the orchestra, the answer is B. Let's eliminate other choices too. By moving the performances of his operas from outdoor to indoor, not really. By building a concert hall whose shape would cause sound to echo. It doesn't really talk about echo, the text didn't use it. This word even the text didn't use. By insisting that the singers undergo special training, it doesn't talk about special training, so the answer is B. According to the text, what is significant about Catlett's use of linocut painting? Okay. To make her art more widely available, graphic artist Elizabeth Catlett turned to linocuts. In linocut painting, an artist carves an image into a sheet of linoleum to create a stamp that is used to mass-produce prints. In the linocut series, The Black Woman, Catlett depicts the everyday experiences of black women alongside the achievements of well-known black women. This pairing invites the viewer to draw connections amongst the women. The linocut process enabled Catlett's work to reach a wide audience and support her aim to unite black women through her art. So, the most significant thing about Catlett's use of linocut printing is probably the fact that she helped connect black women throughout her art, in the world. So we need to find this answer. Linocut printing involved using materials that were readily available. It's not really a significant thing. Linocut printing helped Catlett use art to connect people, especially black women. The answer is probably B, but let's eliminate other choices too. Catlett became commercially successful once she started using linocut printing. It's not a main idea. Catlett was one of the first black artists to use linocut printing. It's probably not true. So the text at the end tells that the most significant thing about it is the fact that viewers could draw connections amongst the women, and black women throughout the world could use her art in order to connect with each other, support each other. So the answer is definitely B. It's about connection. And this one is the last question. The following text, this part we don't really need, as I said before. 5 young siblings have just moved with their parents from London to a house in the countryside that they call the White House. We need to find the main idea here too. It wasn't really a pretty house at all. It was quite ordinary, and Mother thought it was rather inconvenient and was quite annoyed at there being no shelves to speak of and hardly a cupboard in the place. Father used to say that the ironwork on the roof and coping was like an architect's nightmare. So both mother and the father didn't like the house. But the house was deep in the country with no other house in sight, and the children had been in London for 2 years, without so much as once going to the seaside, even for a day by an excursion train, and so the White House seemed to them sort of fairy place, set in the earthly paradise. So the parents didn't like the house, but the children liked it a lot. Let's see which one tells that. Also, their parents believe it has several drawbacks. The children are enchanted by it. So, parents that don't like the house, they think that there are drawbacks, but the children are enchanted. They love it. So the answer is A. Let's eliminate other choices. 2. The children don't like house. They like house. It's wrong. Each member of the family admires the different. Not each member admires. Only children admire the house. The house is beautiful and well built. It's not beautiful and it's not well built. But the children don't miss their house. So the answer is A. We are finished for this video. So thanks for watching and bye. See you during the next lessons.